Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars. SoundCartel. The recent Jobs and Skills Summit in Canberra brought a wide range of organisations together to work on the challenges facing the Australian economy and labour market. Small business is Australia's largest employer. So what was achieved at the summit for a sector that is still hobbled by industrial relations and workforce shortages? From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Championing small business at the summit was Alexi Boyd, the CEO of the Council of Small Business Associations Australia. She says much was achieved, including the first stage of an agreement with unions that could see industrial relations simplified for small businesses. But wasn't the summit simply a glorified talkfest? No, says Alexi Boyd. She explains why to Jeff Waters.
The Jobs and Skills Summit was certainly an experience, that's for sure, as being lucky enough to be one of those people in the room. I would say, in my opinion, it was not a talk fest. It was actually a really great opportunity. And that was for a number of reasons. Firstly, I think that the government needs to be congratulated for good consultation in the lead up to the Jobs Summit. It wasn't just about those 2 days. It was about the roundtables where they really did listen to a wide range of stakeholders in various roundtables to resolve the problems of employment that we face at the moment. And that's getting all the perspectives of employers, of employees, of community groups, and everybody who's affected, which is everybody. The Jobs and Skills Summit itself was also an opportunity for an organisation like COSBOA to really understand what the government's priorities are for the next 6 to 12 months. And that gives us an opportunity to hone in on which policy area is the most crucial, where we need to activate our resources, where we need to discuss with our stakeholders like our members and get all of their feedback and come up with positioning statements and recommendations that are best for small business. There's nothing like a deadline to really get you activated and make sure that you've got all that done. So I'm really proud of the team and the excellent engagement we have with our members through expert panels, through our roundtables, through one-on-one consultation to really bed down what we think is the important policy key areas. And for us, that was 4. So we chose to focus in on industrial relations reform, migration, vet and skills, and the digital economy or digitisation for small business. So in that way, we were able to really look at the policy areas that were key to government and make sure that they had a voice in the room, but also a voice in our papers and the ongoing consultation process, which will come over the next 12 months, making sure that small businesses are paramount.
We'll get onto the details in a minute, but just before we do, just briefly, how did it feel being in the Great Hall? You sound like it was a productive meeting. Did you feel like you were part of history?
In a way, yes. Many people who have been in similar roles before will say that new governments do tend to come in and have these opportunities where they listen to people. I think from our perspective, it was an opportunity to get small businesses on the agenda and make sure that we were discussed and considered. So in that way, it was good. It was auspicious, absolutely, an opportunity for COSBOA to have a seat at the table and represent small business. We had several of our members there who were key players in the discussions, the Smart Energy Council, the Australian Retailers Association, and the Independent Tertiary Education Council of Australia. 3 of our very important members were there to discuss about their key areas, but it was pleasing to see that we were there and it was an opportunity, absolutely, for small business to have a seat at a very important table.
Now, you mentioned some very important aspects that would interest small business out of this, particularly given the labour shortages at the moment. First of all, in a general sense, did you feel that you'd achieved much?
Yes and no. Achieving is to have every single one of our recommendations adopted. with light of small business being the most important thing that they think of. That's what we try and achieve. I think what we did achieve in the room was to make sure that, if you take, for example, I made a statement about the vet and skills sector and the importance of making sure that when you are considering the vet and skills, you have to realise how small businesses interact with upskilling their workforce or upskilling themselves, and not leave small business owners as an afterthought for the importance of upskilling the entire workforce, because they themselves are part of the workforce. So I guess in a way we had the opportunity to make those issues paramount, but the process will keep going. There is a white paper that they tell us is going to take 12 months. And through that, through the ongoing consultations with ministers, with advisors, and with the departments, we'll have the opportunity to keep that going.
You know, Mazars has been a long-time supporter of SoundCartel, and now they're helping us bring you this podcast. To find out how Mazars can support your business, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.
You mentioned immigration and visas earlier. Did you make any headway there?
Look, what we've always said, and we've been saying this for months now, is that A, we need to look at skilled workers in terms of what is required for small businesses. And in order for us to make sure that we have a voice, it's about having the industry associations talking to Home Affairs and saying, this is what we believe are the workforce requirements for us in the next 2 to 5 years. Here's where we believe that the skilled gaps will be, according to what's happening in the vet and skills sector, but where we want to see growth. Because lots of small business owners, they actually bring in skilled workers to not only bring the skills, but to upskill the rest of their workforce as well. And that is an important part. So what we look at saying is, let's get small businesses at the strategic end of that thinking through their professional associations. Because in our mind, they know much better than big businesses about where the gaps in skills are and where migration patterns can assist with filling those gaps.
You conducted a press conference while you were there with the head of the Australian Council of Trade Unions, Sally McManus. Can you please expand for us on this new memorandum of understanding between small business and unions?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a memorandum of understanding to get the conversation started, to try and find simplicity within the system that is stopping small businesses from being able to employ, firstly, but also to use the same tools of trade that big businesses have. Why should a small business owner be locked out of having a bespoke, specific agreement between them and their staff because it's too expensive for them to adopt? They've got to hire lawyers, they've got to hire HR advisors, it is out of reach, and so they're stuck with a modern award that may no longer be fit for purpose. And what we're hearing from our members is those modern awards are restricting them. They're saying things like, if you hire someone 2 hours prior than when you normally have been hiring as normal operating hours, then that's overtime. So that means that the employee misses out on those hours. It means that the employer and the business misses out on that income, and nobody's happy. So the big barrier that has been there for many years has been the Better Off Overall test, where small businesses try and come up with an agreement, but the Fair Work Commission incorporates the Better Off Overall test, which actually takes into account workers that don't even exist yet and circumstances that are not actually in the conditions that they're negotiating. And we don't think that's fair and equitable. And it's been a big barrier. So what we have is an opportunity to talk to the ACTU because they are acknowledging that the process is too complicated, and having employees that don't even know what they're reading on their payslip isn't good for them, and it's not good for us. And having small businesses locked out of any sort of opportunities to come up with a bespoke agreement themselves isn't good for them, and it's not good for us. So it's about having opt-in options and making sure that it's fair and equitable for small businesses. We do not support sector-wide bargaining. We do not support the unionisation of small business. And we absolutely don't support anything that is any way mandated or takes away the autonomy of a small business owner. What we want to see is a conversation that puts small businesses first, because for too long, industrial relations has been designed by and for big business, and we're just left with the scraps.
That was Alexi Boyd, CEO of the Council of Small Business Associations Australia. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow at BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.